So welcome, thank you for coming along and joining the discussion here. I'm looking forward to questions as well. I want to talk about engineering governance. So does that mean something to you guys? Have you heard of engineering governance, aware what it is? Okay, good, then we're in the right place. So what is it? I mean, essentially, any engineering organization where you've got siloed teams doing hardware, software, whatever it is, the challenge always is how do you tie all that together? How do you really get visibility into what your engineering organization is doing? Holistic. So how do you instrument it? How do you understand how well it's doing? So that's what engineering governance is all about. So it's policies, it's safety, it's security, it's innovation, it's all of these things that impact our designs every single day. How do we get our arms around that and understand what's happening? And of course, are we essentially building the right products? That's important, right? We're going to launch a product. Do we build the right thing for the market? How do we know that we're actually doing the right thing from an engineering perspective? So there's all of these things that have to come together to solve that problem and build that perfect product that's going to be hugely successful in the marketplace. So that's what engineering governance essentially allows you to do. Now, it kind of sounds easy. We're doing that already, right? But for the most part, we're not, because our organizations typically are still siloed. There's not enough collaboration across the teams. And how do I instrument that organization to know, firstly, if it's working, and then if it's not, what steps can we take to make it better, improve? So who cares about engineering governance? Well, the obvious answer is everybody should care about it, but different people in the organization have different care about. So obviously the executive team care from the point of view of, am I meeting my sustainability goals? Am I reaching the innovation goals that I've set for the company? Am I launching the right product to drive maximum profit for the company? So very important topics, but if I'm at the engineering level, my care abouts are different. There's a number of things that I'm going to be working on every day that are at a lower level in the organization that I do care about. So it's things like, what risks have I got? How much design coverage do I have? How much test coverage do I have? So those things that are impacting my development every single day. Am I meeting the standards? So ISO 26262, where am I from that perspective? So lots of critical things around regulation, compliance, of course, play into the design flow. The other key thing we see in a lot of our customers as well is the collaboration is good, but it can always be improved. So this is, where we can break down those barriers, those silos, really drive, close collaboration across the teams. And I'm going to use automotive as an example just for a moment. We work with a lot of auto companies where they're still very siloed from a hardware and software perspective. And we know, the level of software that's going into a modern vehicle is accelerating like crazy. But those two worlds, surprisingly, still are very siloed, and it's very difficult to get a holistic view across those two disciplines within the organization. And that's what now we're seeing with these OEMs. It's like, well, the question is, how do I get that holistic view across these disciplines? The hardware guys have been doing what they've been doing for the last 50, 100 years, whatever. The software guys, the disruptors in the organization, software-defined vehicles, autonomy, are moving much, much faster and driving a lot of innovation. So that's a great example of where this engineering governance really comes to play. And the conversations we're having with them are, well, you can have one overarching tool to measure your whole organization. And it's a real surprise for them. It's like, oh, we can do that? So we're at that point now. It's almost an inflection point in not just the automotive industry, but it could be the chip industry, the medical industry, where they're trying to think holistically across those organizations and disciplines. So what's Jama Software's role in all of this? Well, we actually bring all of that world together, depending on, it actually doesn't matter which vertical you're in. So we're actually the #1 player in the semiconductor industry, almost the de facto standard from a requirements management perspective. But we play in other markets as well. So if you're selling into these other markets with your design, you can have that exchange and understand their world, and that engineering governance can go beyond just your domain, but also into your customer's domain as well. And it gives you insight with things like traceability. Where am I on my design? Where are my risks? What steps can I take to move those risks forward, eliminate them, mitigate them across all of these domains? So it's hugely powerful capability that you can use to get there. So the other thing to think about is, from a Jama software perspective, when you think about all the disparate tools you use in your development flow, and I mean, this is not an exhaustive list by any means, but you use a lot of tools. And they're tools that you love, and tools that you use every day, and you've come to learn them and love them over the years that you've been using them. Jama can really actually pull all of those together and give you that traceability across your whole tool chain. I mean, we've all heard the phrase digital thread across your whole organization. How do I get that flow through my tools and know what everything's doing, pull it all together, gather all that data from my test, gather all that data from my EDA tools, and get that holistic view? Jama works with all of these partners, and they'll all feed data both into Jama but back out as well. So you can fire off tests into your test suite, get the results back, feed that into Jama, take a snapshot, know exactly where you are from a development flow. So it's hugely powerful. It doesn't disrupt your business when you make any migrations over to Jama as a tool, because you can use the tools that you have and just use the Jama tool to provide that hub. We've got the famous V model here sat in the middle, which again we all know and love, and we all think about safety and we all think about waterfall design. Not everything's designed in the same way. If you think about the software world where you're working in an agile way, you've got CI/CD, that often can cause some challenges within your organization, because you've got two very different development flows running. So you've got agile running really, really fast, new releases every couple of weeks. Chip and hardware design go much slower, more of a traditional design flow. Again, using Jama Connect, you can unite those two worlds. You can bring them together and get that holistic view across your whole organization, again, from an engineering governance point of view. So the V model's there, we all love it, we all live with it every day, but it's not a limiting factor. So the guys who are doing the safety and the security and following a rigid V model and have to show the traceability for assessment, etc., great. Carry on, but the software guys who want to go fast and agile, no issue. You can have the same visibility, traceability as well through that whole organization. So how do we get you to engineering governance? It's a journey for sure. Is it ever truly done? Probably not, because you're also always thinking about continual improvement. How do I make things better? How do I instrument better? So a number of key topic areas here that you've got to solve to get there. Number one, obviously, is visibility. So to know where to make the improvements, I've got to understand where I am today. How do I measure that from a performance perspective? How do I instrument my organization? What's good, what's not going well? Again, using an automotive example, we were working with a customer who actually identified within their organization a rogue development team. So there was this whole team going off doing something that was completely unsanctioned, obviously spending resource, time, money, not marching towards the innovation goals that the company had set, and it was identified through using this kind of setup. So it becomes hugely powerful, and it gives you that visibility into your organization. And that helps drive efficiency, reduce risk, and there's lots of other ways to measure it: time to market, quality, whatever. Another big one for the organization is removing those silos. It drives communication amongst the teams, closer collaboration. You can use the tool to do that with reviews. As you go through that development flow, how do you get that seamless review process through the different organizations that you need to talk to within your organization? Harmonization. So we've all got standards and regulations and compliance things that we have to meet. Often those things are somewhat in tension. If we think about safety and security, there's a healthy tension between those two. From a product perspective, you've got to meet all of them. So how do you get there efficiently? How do you drive that without the conflict between those various standards? And it gets more and more complex as you build products that go into multiple markets. Different standards, that it almost grows exponentially. And the great thing about standards is there's so many of them, and there are more and more coming all the time. So you've got to be able to keep your organization up to date with new standards that you may have to meet. And of course, everything has to tie back to those business goals. From the top down. What are we trying to solve? You've got to keep driving and innovating to meet those goals. And ultimately, it comes down to confidence. Confidence in the organization. Are we where we need to be? Are we at the point where we can just everything's seamless, everything's efficient? It becomes hugely challenging, and engineering governance gives you a way to get there more efficiently, more effectively. Everybody's bought in, and it just drives time to market, drives quality, and all the things that we care about. So great, engineering governance. You've heard a little bit about what Jama can do. I'm obviously here on the Keysight booth here. I'm happy to be here. So the obvious question is, well, what are Jama and Keysight doing together? Well, we already have an integration with the Keysight Hub tool, the IP management tool, so that already exists today. But as we think about seamless integration across that tool chain, what else can we do? So the team with Keysight and the Jama engineering team are proactively working together to look at how we can optimize things more from an integration perspective. How can you get that seamless integration between the whole Keysight tool capability into Jama and make that optimized, more effective, more efficient, give more visibility if you're a Keysight tool user. So that's very much underway. There's more to come soon, and more announcements, as you'll see as this gains momentum. But it's great to be here. Thank you for taking the time. I hope that's given you a bit of insight into what Jama does, how we can help you with your engineering governance journey.